Hi, I'm Austin Wintory, and I am going to see if I can recognize these iconic video game soundtracks in 5 seconds or less. Yes, that one I can tell you. The great overlord over us all, Koji Kondo, of course, the original Mario. If I get it in 1 second, I get 5 whole points. It's the only piece of video game music that is completely and totally in the global human zeitgeist. It's one of those where you can see these videos online of kids, react to Nintendo that's from decades before they were born, and you can play them that same 1 second clip, and they can sing along and keep it going without even knowing really what it is. So yeah, it's the clear winner for the most iconic of all time. My brain, my brain thought that it was like Contra or something, but I don't know. Sounds like Final Fantasy when I hear that. When I hear the dun 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 dun, I'm not going to be able to place it. You could jump straight to the 5 seconds, and I can already concede defeat on it. That's why I've heard it, because it's been on concerts with me before. But I was never a Pokemon guy. The limited tool set forced them to lean on the kind of rudiments of composition, which, above all, melody reigns supreme. You can more imply harmony than be directly kind of harmonically sophisticated. It's all through suggestion mostly, just because of the extreme limitation on sounds that were possible, and it just therefore required pretty substantial inventiveness. Not off of that. Now that I hear it, I can tell what it is, of course. I worked on it. That is from Hades 2, which I had the great pleasure of working with Darren on. We worked on a concert together that was a celebration of Supergiant turning 10, where we kind of reimagined greatest hits from Bastion, Transistor, and Pyre with a little tiny bit of Hades. And I remember we went to London to record, and I remember saying to him, I feel like I'm a drug dealer who's trying to get you hooked on using the orchestra. Now just imagine this on new material. And that's my fantasy for Hades 2. And sure enough, 6 months later or so, he called and said, all right, that's what we're going to do. Oh, it was just an absolute blast. Some of the most fun I've ever had, honestly. I have no idea what it is. It's got a kind of weird rhythmic energy to it that I think is interesting, but no, it's still got nothing. I'm not sure I know this one. At the very end of the 5 seconds, hearing that nah, almost like Earthworm Jim or something, but I'm not sure. Yeah. See, funny enough, that's one of those games that my familiarity with it is not reflective of my sort of professional appreciation of its popularity. Orchestra Victoria, who's performing this indie symphony, were my orchestral musicians. I recorded in Melbourne. A lot of what's in there, for example, are brand new custom arrangements. The Undertale one, for example, this will be the world premiere of a whole new take on a bunch of music from that game. It's mostly the brainchild of Elise at Orchestra Victoria. She would email me and say, here's the wish list. And we made a bunch of custom arrangements, like Slay the Spire. Hades 2 music was written for a huge orchestra. The Undertale one in particular, she sent me, apropos. I don't know that score that well. And probably if you played me like a 40-second clip of that one, I would have been like, oh, okay, yeah, I know bits and pieces of this. That sounded like something of mine. It sounded like a bit of Journey, because I recognized those synth sounds more than I recognized the actual piece. Oh, it's right before Apotheosis takes off. There you go. Games were eligible for Grammy nominations since 1999, something most people don't realize. And I'm grateful to have my little place in that story, but I would hardly stand by the notion that Journey was the first that should be considered worthy of that. I think it's important to never conflate that with it is therefore great music, because you certainly run the risk of implying that which does not get nominated is somehow lesser, and there are lots of great scores in every camp that have never been noticed by anyone. thrashing percussion and a riser. Of course, my brain immediately goes to Mick Gordon. It didn't actually sound like anything specific that I remember. It's also more trash canny sounding percussion than anything I think of from the Doom scores. So I'm not sure I can stand behind that guess. Maybe I wasn't off. I guess that will be my guess. Oh wow, I mean, there's a track I've listened to 20,000 times, and I guess it's been a while. Very, very, very excellent. I remember I was in the room when he gave a talk about that score at the Game Developers Conference that was a pretty astounding and amazing thing to witness. It's hard for a colleague to kind of make my jaw just perpetually stay on the floor because, you know, you do this long enough and you learn a lot of the tricks. And that was a rare instance where I felt like, boy, I've never tried any of these tricks. It was pretty amazing. 7, 1 second. That sounded like Gerudo Valley. Ha! Nice. Yeah, those panning claps are, and they're like not claps, you know, they're fake claps. In fact, it was one of those that I always, if I'm being honest, I always felt was a little overrated because I've spent some pretty serious time with like real flamenco music, and part of it was the limitations of, you know, what was possible on the N64, but it was also kind of like, it was sort of, to my ear, it felt like diet, caffeine-free, flamenco adjacent music. I mean, look, points to that piece that in 1 second I could identify it. I think that says a lot about the piece. I mean, I played the hell out of Ocarina of Time, and it was the best piece in there, although all the little ocarina tunes are insanely memorable and iconic in their own right. It kind of sounded like One Winged Angel. It helps that I've conducted this one in concert in addition to having heard it 1,000 times. Oh, it's the original too. Yeah, it's not one of the more popular, sort of like the Distant Worlds sort of live orchestra version. It's the actual original. That did have that flash of familiarity, but I don't know. The piano for a split second reminded me of Jessica Curry's music to Dear Esther. Well, that now I suspect that might have been something of mine because I recognized that the mix, it almost felt like a bit from Erica or something. Oh, of course, yeah, the unmistakable Ashley Johnson. That's so funny how taken in such isolation it can be disorienting. I mean, this was, of course, Stray God, one of the most challenging and delightful projects of my entire life. With the fire furious, I have burned my tongue. We set out to do something that we are convinced no one had ever done. A game where you control the songs in narratively consequential ways, and in ways that's not just like swapping out different lyrics on top of a backing track or something like that, but it really takes you down wildly divergent paths. It almost killed us because it was so much work and everyone gave everything. If I had to guess, I would say Uncharted, because it has a great big glorious tam-tam roll like that, but I don't know. It was clearly about to go somewhere else, but my brain said, you know, it almost felt like the choir from Halo was about to come in, but I don't remember there being a tam-tam on the downbeat of that, so that's where I'm not convinced that it's that. Well, unless I was right about Halo. Okay, there you go. Didn't trust myself. That's so funny. I guess in my memory, Halo's theme starts sort of like Mass Effect, where it's just kind of a low sort of drone before the rest comes in. I guess I just completely forgot about that tam-tam. Well, I don't think I did too terribly here on your quiz show here. I have a lot of disassociated music in my head that I know from somewhere, but I'm really bad at remembering names. For more like this, watch this video next. And the funny thing was the Pokemon one was driving me crazy because I knew I'd heard it, but given infinite amount of time, I would have never been able to tell you.